Hi, this is Mark Lee. Thanks for tuning in to the Season 4 premiere of Low Profile. I'm really excited for this season for several reasons. First of all, it's the first time that all the interviews have been recorded in advance, and the lineup is spectacular. It's really something else. Secondly, I had a team of guest hosts chip in and conduct interviews on their own, so that's going to add a lot of variety to the overall feel of the show. And thirdly, the show is now being broadcast on KAOS 89.3 in Olympia, Washington, Fridays at 4 p.m. Finally, an illustrator named Taylor W. Rushing is contributing portraits of each featured artist this season. He's a professional master of ink, and you can find prints of his work and learn about his services by visiting taylorwrushing.com. On today's episode, I'm speaking with the singer, composer, and multimedia artist Briana Marela. Briana grew up around Seattle, Washington, and found herself immersed in its independent music scene while she was still in high school. Her creative work has taken her to lots of places, sonically and geographically. When we spoke in October 2020, she had recently moved to Brooklyn.
Yeah, I was living in Oakland for like 2 years before that.
Right, yeah, and you were there at Mills College?
Yeah.
So we just heard a clip of a performance that you did as a duo, pouring water into a bowl.
Oh, yeah.
It's creating these really ethereal, beautiful sounds. And I was wondering if you could talk about what's going on there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the pieces that I'm doing in that performance are actually some things I wrote at Mills. And the summer after my first year, my partner Joel, who's in that video with me, we went on tour together, and Joel kind of ended up like being a part of kind of just like improvising and being a part of the set. And it was really fun to play with him. It's fun to, obviously play music with other people, and with him especially. But yeah, so for the piece with the water droplets, essentially there's just a contact mic at the bottom of the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then I am running this program called Maxim SP, and I'm just doing kind of a simple audio detection like trigger. So when it detects a drop of water, it's playing back some synthesis sequence that I had programmed.
Well, it sounds amazing, and it's really hypnotic to watch as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the work I was working on at Mills was really meant for live performance and to be in the live sphere. And I'm glad that you still got something out of it from watching the video, because to me it feels like it just benefits from seeing it live. But it's cool that you could also gather some of that magic from the recorded thing too.
Oh yeah, so you're definitely working more in that realm these days, of the sort of like visual performance art with that's involved with creating the music that you make.
I mean, I have a pretty broad practice. I'm working on like 3 different albums right now, and one of them is kind of more like pop / hazy rock vibe. And then, there's like my more experimental stuff too. But I don't know. I don't think I ever want to feel forced to just do one thing. Like, I just like doing lots of different things.
Yeah, it definitely shows. You have an EP that you put out in high school called Stuck in a Rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did you see who plays on that album?
no, who's on there?
Ah, you got to do your research. Well, do you know Mr. Carl Blau, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, he's playing guitar and some bass on that EP. Because I had a voice teacher in high school, because I was like a really brutally shy preteen, and I started getting voice lessons when I was 12. I think kind of even just as a way to feel more, like empowered and try to get more outgoing. And I really wanted to perform. Like I'd always wanted to, but I had a lot of stage fright. And working with my teacher, Johanna Kunyan, she was just a really amazing mentor to me as a teen. And at the time, she was dating this guy, Steve Moore, who you probably also know of.
Yeah, so far I know everybody you've mentioned.
And so then she also had this friend named Eric Eagle, who I never really knew much about what he was up to. I think he played in that band Jesse Sykes and the Sweet Hereafter. There's like a Seattle band.
I remember seeing that on flyers, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he played drums in that band. He was like a drummer and kind of like maybe hobbyist audio engineer. And
Okay.
so my voice teacher was like, "Hey, do you want to record my student's EP for her senior project?" And he was like, "Cool, yeah." And she had also asked Steve and Carl if they wanted to play on it, and they were like, "Yeah, totally." And then they also got another friend of theirs named Paris Hurley to play some violin on it.
Did you know those guys when they got brought into your project?
I had met Steve before, just
Mm-hmm.
at Johanna's place, and then he was always so sweet to me. And I think I had met Carl at a show of Johanna's, because I think at the time they played a couple of shows. So I remember seeing Carl play when I was in high school. I also remember seeing Your Heart Breaks, and just kind of peering into this, slightly older scene of Northwest music, and I was really inspired and loved it, and loved Carl's music, and was super flattered that he wanted to be a part of the EP. And I think he and Steve really add so much to that EP. I mean, I could barely play guitar and piano, and but I'd written these songs, and was really excited about them. And it was my first time being in a recording experience and seeing how overdubs and collaborating with other people and seeing what other people brought to a session. It was just, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's a really nice little collection, especially for so how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 30.
And did you just have a birthday? I know you have a birthday this month.
My birthday's on Sunday.
Sunday. Cool. Well, happy birthday in advance.
Thanks.
It's cool how the sort of the Pacific Northwest music scene, the generations tend to overlap. It's something I've noticed and experienced firsthand as well. And it's really cool that folks kind of pass the torch to us in some ways and serve as mentors.
Oh, definitely.
Even now, it's really exciting for me to see, the up and coming groups that, coming from the next generation down. It's I don't see that cycle breaking.
There are no tears, just creases where your smile used to be. Broken wires and cables with pure energy. We're side by side for a time where we could breathe. Stuck in a rhythm closer than we used to be.
Well, for one thing, I feel like your music definitely isn't something that is going to sound dated at any point. It's really, I feel like it transcends time.
Oh, well, thanks. It's very
Yeah.
sweet. It feels maybe dated to me just in that I hear my younger self and sometimes cringe a little bit. Plus, I
Yeah.
think I've always been a bit of a late bloomer, so I feel like I just, I feel like maybe, I don't know, just like slightly naive or about things, and you can just like hear it in my songs, and then I feel like silly or something.
I noticed a really dramatic shift between that release and then the Water Ocean Lake that came a few years later.
Estás volando o nadando allá arriba.
And I feel like it was sort of somewhere in between those years that I began to see you perform at house shows and the like.
Did you see me play with guitar? Probably.
I think I may have seen you perform with guitar maybe once. And then when you began doing your sets sitting down, largely, or you had your stuff all on a blanket, I remember.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah, because I played at that one Microfest.
right.
Yeah.
And that was just really psychedelic and I don't know, so super atmospheric. I feel like time stopped during that set there, and it was really I think it was clear that you were beginning to venture into that territory. Everything, all the songs were very gradual, sort of a slow build, and and a lot of just kind of feeling it and seeing where it goes. But then you would surprise with these very intentional choruses and thoughtful lyrics, and that sort of began to translate on that record, the Water Ocean Lake. But it was very ambient, like electroacoustic experience, and I think that I don't know what was your experience making that record.
Well, I guess kind of stepping back for a moment. So between that first EP and then Water Ocean Lake, I have like a whole album of songs I wrote on guitar that I was performing for like 2 years, like my first 2 years of being in Olympia. And then they just never really got recorded. And so I kind of have this like missing album of guitar, like singer-songwriter ballads. So,
Oh wow.
and then I think I just started to feel really limited by guitar. I mean, I wasn't a very good guitarist. I've never really cared about being a good musician. I mean, like skill wise, like, I don't think I've ever been very good at playing an instrument. And in school, I was learning about audio recording, and then I started taking music technology classes at Evergreen, and I just was blown away by the potential of making music on the computer or using synthesizers and doing field recordings. And I just started thinking about sound and music in a really different way, and I just have never really even wanted to go back to guitar that much. Or really to play acoustic instruments. I don't know, it just hasn't been my interest. And so Water Ocean Lake was sort of kind of this early exploration for me of what I wanted my music to be like.
Yeah, it was very like music concrete, as opposed to the sort of traditional pop group lineup or like the rock band. And
Hmm.
I was curious how you got into that sort of sound because it's such a stark difference, but the constant is your main instrument, which is your voice. Was that a solo effort?
Oh, the Water Ocean Lake album.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was just all stuff I made when I was in school. My friend Taylor Newcomb had helped me record some stuff because Evergreen has a really amazing like analog studio with like a 16 track API board, and there's like a 2-inch tape machine in there, and a lot of that stuff was recorded straight to 2-inch tape.
So when did you take your show on the road for the first time?
Well, the first tour I did was actually, I was still playing guitar, and I was taken on the road by my friend Shelby Turner, and he had booked just like a West Coast tour, and he really helped me in so many ways, just like having the confidence and just like showing me the ropes, of like being on tour. And it was, yeah, a really beautiful and valuable experience. And then in 2012, when Speak From Your Heart came out, then I did like a 2.5 month tour with my sibling. Aseneth came on the road with me, and we were a duo, and we like went around the whole US and played like 53 shows or something.
Find me on the other side of what feels right. Nothing is forever, but nothing feels right. Nothing is forever, but nothing feels right.
It's really cool to see siblings collaborate.
Yeah, it was fun to do that with them. It was hard too, conflicts and stuff came up, but I feel like that tour was really essential for kind of our close bond now. Like I think if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have been able to work through some of the hard things that ended up coming up on the road. But it was also beautiful just like traveling and playing music together too, of course. But
What got you into songwriting? Like, when did you feel that you had something to sing about?
well, I started just writing songs in middle school. I just always have had melodies and lyrics come to me. I mean, I don't feel like I necessarily always have something really important to say, and I don't think that that should have to be a requirement for making music. And I don't know, I just started writing because these melodies kept coming to me and I had to do something with them.
What were the melodies, the sorts of sounds in music that you were drawn to growing up?
Well, my dad is Peruvian, and I grew up listening to a lot of Peruvian folk music. Like there's this one album, Uña Ramos, a Kenna player, and I remember always listening to this tape of like the Kenna playing all these beautiful Peruvian folk melodies, and
What is that instrument?
it's like a bigger wooden flute, and it's just got the most beautiful haunting sound to me. And I don't know, I think my dad was always really into playing the Peruvian folk music. He's his ancestry is Quechua, so I think he just always like trying to feel connected to his indigenous roots, and he always wanted to try and pass that on to us to like have a deep appreciation for our ancestry. I think that's probably the biggest early thing that shaped my music experience, was like always listening to the Peruvian folk songs. And then, you know, growing up, and like I was like in a kids choir, and we like sang the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and you know, my parents would take me to folk life in Seattle, because I grew up in North Seattle.
Right.
Just always been around music, and my parents always encouraged me to listen and be a part of music, and I sang in choir a lot.
So do you think the Peruvian folk is still a part of the backbone of what you do?
I think it's between that. Maybe also my dad listened to a lot of like Spanish ballad guys, like this guy Raphael. I love Raphael. Really like amazing, cheesy, but like deeply beautiful, passionate Spanish ballads. I think maybe my other big shaper of my songs that maybe only someone who really listened to my music a lot would know is probably that I was always obsessed with Mr. Rogers. And he's an amazing songwriter. And I just love the way he was able to write just really poignant songs about like child emotions and feelings, and the melodies are all beautiful and so moving, and he also just like has all these like crazy jazz chords, like kind of just, and the vibraphone. I've always been really drawn to vibraphone, and
That's cool. Yeah, I can definitely see that influence coming through. Sort of in the, I think one thing in common is the sort of very crystal clear delivery of the words. You know, he's looking at you in the eye when he sings, and
yeah,
I kind of hear that in your voice as well. It's very direct and careful.
yeah, just the idea of being direct when trying to communicate emotions, and a lot of my songs do end up being about communicating emotions. So
Like speak from your heart,
yeah, I mean,
for example. So that was the Bicycle Records release initially.
mm-hmm.
You got some legs from it, but you referred to the following album as your debut record.
Well, I mean, I didn't necessarily. It was kind of, that's sort of what happened when I worked with this like bigger label on that next album on All Around Us. Was they called it the debut because they could do that. I don't really know why. I don't know why it happens that way, but they were just like, okay, this is your debut.
That was on Jaguar, and you had recorded that before you had a record deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know that you worked with Alex Summers.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a producer from America living in Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
And you wanted to go record that album over there. How did that transpire?
Well, he had just kind of emailed me out of the blue, and I was excited about that. I had never worked with someone who was like a producer, you know?
When I'm feeling helpless, surely stay like this. You'll reach out and just take my hand and hold me. You take care of me like I'm the only one. You take care of me like I'm the only one. You take care of me like I'm someone that matters.
You think Iceland itself had something to do with the sound of that record?
It's hard. I think people like to attach like geographic mystery to stuff, and it could be part of it. I mean, also Alex like lived in Iceland for like 10 years, so I feel like he has like a lot of that kind of energy of like, like he was dating, the singer from Sigur Rós, Jónsi, and was like, I think that he's just drawn to certain sounds that definitely came into that album from his kind of like repertoire of, love of sound, and then I was coming from my world, and it was sort of like a meeting in the middle of like my music, but like with this outside influence of him being a part of it. Everything else I've worked on has been like I work on it a little bit, and then there's like months in between, and then you go back and you work on it more, and then you have to take such a big break from it. And I think there is something really special about having just like a short, focused amount of time, and you're just committed to finishing something. Because it's like, I don't want to take a break from this. But, of course, there's things in life that you can't avoid. Like there's work and school and all these things that come in between. But yeah, that was just a really special time that I had the really special opportunity to get to do that.
Yeah, and then they did another one with you after that.
Yeah, that one's more confusing to me because I kind of felt like their hearts were in the first one, but I didn't really feel like their hearts weren't really in putting out the second one. I almost felt like it was like a weird breakup thing where like they didn't want to like break up with me, but then they like, still put the album out, but then didn't like put enough like love and effort into it, and so it just like really fell flat. And like now I'm just like in deeper debt to them, so it's just weird.
Oh man, so that's Call It Love, and I'm surprised that it didn't take off, or that they didn't put more love into it, as you say.
Baby, I got a reason, don't need you like I did, and I've been through enough to pick up the pieces. What if tears and love could make you afraid and think about splitting up? Can't you do the duration? Now I would be holding on through this for life. Oh, I guess you'll regret when you go change your mind. Oh,
I really wanted to challenge myself to have an album with more low end, because I've really shied away from having much low end in a lot of my music, and it's hard for me. There's something about my ears where I just don't, I feel like a lot of the low frequencies really cloud out things I want to hear, so I often just like don't go for it. I'm like, it's taking up too much space in the mix, so I like things to be more trebly or like mid-centric, and so with that
Yeah.
album, I was really trying to push myself to be like, no, I'm going to embrace these like low bass and like low drum sounds and like really have it, I don't know, just be a part of it. And I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that album. I feel like it kind of just, I was like in a big pop phase for a moment, and then kind of wrote a bunch of these songs when I was in this pop moment, and
Hey,
I don't know.
that's great. I didn't ever notice that the bass wasn't there in your music until I heard that record, and I was like, whoa, that's different. I feel like it's a nice compliment to the higher frequencies that you normally dwell on. Definitely,
Thanks.
yeah, definitely felt like another departure. But I think it's an experiment that worked really well, and I hope that the rest of those copies of that album get snatched up.
They'll probably just like get thrown away at some point. Just like sitting in a warehouse in Bloomington,
Yeah,
Indiana.
yeah, I've been in that warehouse.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been there even. I always wanted to go just because everyone from when I was on that label, everybody was like, you gotta go. I was like, well, invite me to play a show or something. I'll totally go.
Right. Yeah.
I usually don't travel unless touring is a part of it, just because I can't afford to do so otherwise. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You kind of got to have a reason sometimes.
Yeah, I think tour is a really fun reason to travel. So,
It's great. Yeah. There's so many places that you probably wouldn't have seen otherwise.
oh yeah, definitely.
And, you make enough to get by. If you're lucky enough for that to happen, then that's, icing on the cake.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I feel like, I mean, sleeping on strangers' floors or couches or whatever. We're not talking about, you know, like tour
Oh.
bus
Oh no.
with a hot tub in the back or anything.
No. Though. Okay. So when I was alone touring in Europe, in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
I just did like kind of a short solo European tour, and it was after All Around Us had come out, and there's this band called Sunlux, and they had a tour bus, and I got to like be on their tour bus for like 3 or 4 days with them, and
Mm-hmm.
it was crazy. Like it was like the only time I've ever been on a tour bus, and where you like sleep and they like drive you to the next city, and it just was so trippy, and I just couldn't. I don't know. I just couldn't believe that. Like, wow, I can't believe people get to do this kind of touring. It's like such a game changer. You like wake up in the new city. You like have the whole day to just like hang out and like walk around and explore, and then you like have a luxurious amount of time before playing the show instead of like, you're like driving 14 hours or something, like barely get to the show in time or something. I don't know. It was really trippy and it was really fun. I mean, those guys are sweet, and it was fun to have at least that one like 3-day experience of being on a tour bus.
Oh yeah. Did you have any downtime in Europe?
um a little bit, not too much. I feel like a lot of times when I'm traveling with touring, I just don't have days off.
Mm-hmm.
Though on the European tour I did in 2017, I was there with my friends Joel and Natalie, and Justin, and we took some days off at the end, and we were in Lisbon in Portugal.
Oh,
And that was
wow.
really fun.
Yeah. What's going on in Lisbon?
It's just like a beautiful old city, and we just walked around a lot. It was like near Christmas time, so everything was really Christmassy. There's these castles nearby, like an hour train ride away, in a place called Sintra. And we traveled there and went to, I think the castle is like maybe in that movie Pan's Labyrinth.
Okay.
But we went there, and that was, yeah, definitely such a highlight of the trip.
Wow. So after Call It Love comes out,
Hmm.
then you decide it's time to go back to school.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I had found out that I was getting dropped from JAG, and that my booking agent had dropped me just because I wasn't making anyone any money, and I kind of felt like it was coming, and
Mm.
so I got dropped, and I was sad, and I was thinking like, well, what am I going to do right now? And I had always wanted to go to grad school, and I thought it would be a really good opportunity to explore some of my more like experimental sound desires. And so I applied to Mills and got in, and yeah, I applied like really late too. I applied in June, and then I started school that August of 2018.
So you went in with experimental music in mind,
Hmm.
and what do you like about making experimental music that is different from when you're working on pop stuff? What draws you into that?
I don't know. I guess maybe making pop music feels more tied to capitalism or something, or it feels more toward this idea of like I'm supposed to be making a product, even though I know it doesn't have to be that way. I think maybe just my experience of being on a label and feeling like I had expectations put on me. I think making more kind of ambient or experimental music, I feel more free. Like I feel like I'm not trying to do it to have some sort of expectation fulfilled. I'm just doing something that's interesting and fun for me. Like I'm not trying to impress anyone with it. I'm just like, and that feels, I don't know, it just feels freeing. And not that I, have to impress people with my pop music or something. I don't know. I think I just got kind of jaded on making pop music, but I think I've come around now after being in school, and I'm excited about the idea of making pop music again and have some distance from the music industry now that I just don't care anymore about trying to like, put something out and like have people like it. Like I'm just going to put music out because I like it and because I want to, and not because I care about what anyone else thinks about it.
Right. So are you still interested in working with labels? Are you gonna more on the side of the way things have been going for a lot of artists now, and just self-releasing things as soon as they're done?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe in a lot of ways we don't need labels anymore. I mean, I think it's really nice to have the support of like a group of people at a label. Like I think that feels good, and it's nice to feel like you have community or support. Yeah, when putting something out, because I mean, like a lot of other artists, I don't think of myself as being like very business minded. I feel like I have enough business sense to like not always get myself fucked over, but I do sometimes. I make mistakes and don't know what I'm doing, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'll probably just self-release my new stuff unless somehow someone was like really excited about putting it out and like had financial support. I mean, also a big thing is if I'm self-releasing, I probably can't afford to like make physical copies of something at this point in time. So if I did work with a label, it would be probably to have the access to like make a vinyl or make a tape or something.
Yeah, it's tricky to do that on your own, for sure.
Yeah.
Very much. It is nice to have a team behind you.
Yeah, it just feels good.
But yeah, necessary, arguable. Yeah. The last thing that you commercially released was the collaboration with Radiolab. And
oh, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was kind of lingering with my stuff at the end of my time with Jag. My friend Hannah had gotten me that opportunity, and that was actually supposed to come out in 2017, and then I think maybe all the other artists were like being really flaky with getting their songs in or something. And because I had turned in my song in like 2017 and then waited a whole nother year before it actually came out. So
yeah, I don't know. I was pretty stoked to see that you were on the same album as Dolly Parton, among other heavy hitters, but that just takes the cake.
I know. That's, yeah, very special.
Yeah.
It's not you're wrong interpreting my protection. Nothing kept in plain view. I keep my heart close like cards to read. I choose how you know me privately. You wanna pick something right. You're looking for something sweet. Sugar in the bowl, fruit from the tree. But if you taste the truth, there's poison in the roots. When you take what you took from me.
That your song was about the Fourth Amendment. So did you choose that, or was that completely commissioned?
I could choose. At the time that I chose, there weren't very many amendments chosen yet, but I really wanted to do the Fourth Amendment, and So I got to, yeah, have my pick. I don't think anyone else even wanted to do it, which
Uh,
is strange. I feel like the Fourth Amendment to me feels really like one of the most important amendments. So
Right. It's about like seizure of personal property.
yeah, and just like the right to privacy from your government, basically, which, can be like physical, or like I even think about it as like what's going on the internet and with like the government or corporations like spying and like data mining, and
Right.
it's like, yeah, it's very creepy, and I think we really are giving up a lot of our privacy, and there should be more restrictions.
Yeah, you just all you do is click that I accept button and then you're you're screwed.
I accept. You know everything about me.
Yeah. I don't think people really think about that. I know I don't. Not in the moment if I'm just trying to, you know, I just want to get this plug in or something. Like, what am I signing away?
Yeah, I know. I feel like I have a really strange relationship with the internet where I think it's, incredible. It's a resource. Like, everything is happening on it. But at the same time, I just, like, have such a distrust, and, like, I'm just scared of it. Like, I just love in person things. Like, I don't know if I'm just really, like, analog, but I'm like, can I just read a book? Can someone just call me and we can just talk about stuff, or like, can we just meet up and like, yeah, have a, I don't know, IRL time?
Right. Yeah. Gosh, remember before we abbreviated everything?
Yeah.
LOL.
Yeah, exactly.
I know our mutual friend and your former professor, Ben Kamen.
Oh, Ben.
Yeah, he told me that his mom would always sign her emails LOL mom because she thought it meant lots of love.
Oh, that's so cute. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I want to explore what your most recent available work, which is just the performances that you've done that are available online. So you've got a lot of it is very seems to be sensory, a lot of contact microphones, and you're wearing this amazing black superhero costume basically with a bunch of wires coming out of it in this video that you did for your Masters of Fine Arts final.
Yeah.
And so all the movements, subtle motions that you do with your arms and your body, as well as other amplified objects like the metal bowls that we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It it's a very it's a very mixed media performance that you gave in that particular video. And I don't know, can you tell me a little bit about the suit?
Yeah, well, the suit, it's essentially a prototype. I don't like that it looks like a superhero diving costume or something. Like, I I think I was just trying to make something that would work for the performance. And in terms of like having wearable electronics, it makes a lot of sense to have something that's like tight, because you don't want things moving around. You don't want, different components touching each other. So like you don't want it to be something loose and flowy, obviously. And so I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense to do something with this like kind of tight bodysuit. I had like an original idea of trying to incorporate more movement or dance into the performance, and then I ended up scrapping some of that because of time. And so the suit is kind of unnecessary for it to be a whole suit, because I'm really mostly using, there's an accelerometer in each wrist, and there's also conductive fabric sensors that will touch other conductive fabric sensors on the suit. But the biggest sensors I'm using are really just the 2 accelerometers. And those are able to, depending on where my hands are in space, they are able to affect the mapping that I've kind of worked and trained with.
And I definitely don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds amazing. So the suit essentially is not an aesthetic choice. It was purely a utilitarian design.
Yeah, it's a utilitarian design. And I mean, I guess the only benefit of it is that I kind of like that it has a little bit of a sci-fi look. Like, I'm into sci-fi, but I don't want it to be that overwhelming with its presence. Like, the suit shouldn't be like the focal point of the performance. Like, the focal point should be my voice and the electronics and like the sounds, and something like that suit I think kind of takes up too much space. But I mean, it's really, like I said, it's kind of a prototype or like an idea of somewhere to start. And then I'm trying to think of how I could wear electronics in a way that would look more aesthetically pleasing, or like aesthetically fit the vibe, what I'm trying to do.
Right, something that's not overwhelming or distracting, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you said you're working on a few more albums simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Is this all further solo work at this point?
Yeah, I mean, one of the albums is kind of a collection of my fixed media work from my time at Mills. And then another album is one I've been working on kind of the last 4 years, and that one is actually a lot more collaborative with my partner, Joel. He helped write at least half of the songs on it. And we've played a lot of them live together too, and it's a really special album to me. I am just trying to finish mixing it now.
What about there's another video that you released in which you're painting a piece of glass in front of your face while you're singing.
Mm-hmm.
That even if they don't understand you, there is value in
I'm just curious what exactly we're hearing in that performance, because it definitely seems like the sound is reacting to the paint dripping on the glass whenever you do a brush stroke, and I'm just wondering about how composed that piece was, and what's going on behind the scenes.
Well, there's also, I just have a contact mic on that piece of, it's actually a piece of Lexan, which is like a really hard piece of plastic. And I just have basically a contact mic as a trigger for sound, and then I have a max patch where I have some just different synthesis kind of loops that are triggered by me touching the glass with the paintbrush. And then there's also just like kind of like a random synthesis, little like bubbles and swirls kind of sounds that are coming out, that it's just happening randomly. And so I think sometimes some of the unpredictableness of when some of these other sounds happen sometimes just even coincide with what I'm doing with the glass. But then some of it is happening because I'm touching it, but some isn't. So having a little bit of ambiguity, I think, can even heighten the, kind of direct one-to-one relationship of what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like you leave it, you leave yourself the possibility of being surprised yourself at what happens.
Yeah, which I think is really important and an important part of electronic music. I think I got, even when I was in my pop phase, I just got bored at how predictable and everything was, and how like polished and perfect, and I like didn't give myself a lot of room for the unexpected and for the unknown. And I think that's actually a really crucial part of performing electronic music, and I'm trying to really be thinking of that when I'm making my new pieces.
Well, I think I got a few more things I got to do for school, and then we're cleaning up our backyard because our buddy Mike Dixon's coming over today.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he
That's
said to tell
awesome.
you hello too. I was chatting
Oh
with
yeah,
him.
say hi.
Yeah, he put out a
I-
couple lathe cuts for you. Once upon a
Yeah,
time.
I'm trying to get him to put out another one, but I think he's been kind of busy. But hopefully sometime soon I'll have something else coming out with Mike. Love that guy.
I'll get a few beers in him and get him to sign something. Then I'll fax it to you.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it.
Wow.
Cool. Well, yeah, have a good rest of your day, and thank you again for wanting to interview me.
Oh, yeah. I've been looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Thanks again to Briana Marela for taking the time to join me today. Also, special thanks to Miles Rosati for helping with the editing on this episode. If you liked it and you want to hear more, all of the previous episodes are archived at lowprofilepodcast.com. There you can also find links related to featured artists on this show. And now, the full song, I Don't Belong to You, released by People in a Position to Know.
He says he loves me, but he is afraid. Why
person.